Thank you. Thanks for reminding me.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Continuity of living beings. Further, Puna Maitreya Niputra, this deflect in awareness was caused by its subjectiveness that set up illusory objects beyond which awareness, thus circumscribed, cannot reach. Hence, one hearing is limited to sound and one seeing to form. This is illusory sense data frustrated, divided the undivided nature into seeing, hearing, feeling, and knowing. As a result of unenlightened activities, similarity of karma, cause affinity, whereas this similarity led to either union for embodiment or parting for transformation. Well, so again, the Buddha mentioned that because of our discriminative mind, somehow we just limit our sense into the seeing, hearing, feeling, and knowing. That because we could not recognize the pure nature, it's like when we utilize our eyes, we could recognize the seeing. When we utilize our ear, we could recognize the hearing. But all in once, our pure nature is still there, whether through our eyes or through our ears, through our nose, and so forth. Mm. Uh, it's understandable, right? It's here.
Yeah.
Mm. And art results of unenlightened activities mean because of our uh, ignorance, so we raise certain type of karma uh, that led to either the union of embodiment or parting for transformation. You understand this part?
No, I did not understand that part. I understand the similar karma caused affinity,
Mm.
whereas dissimilar led to either union for embodiment, yeah, or parting for transformation. No.
Mm. This similarity, yeah, well, it's pure harm, embodiment or partner for transformation. Let's see what the note here. Oh, birth from humanity, birth from birth by transformation. Oh, birth. Okay. Oh, affinity that 85. Birth from worms and eggs.
Okay.
Oh, curse affinity, birth from. So this similarity led to the either union for embodiment. That's mean birth from humanity. It's like earthworms, right? They born from humanity, and the last one
Oh,
birth from transformation. That's mean I'm sorry. Apart from transformation, that's like the butterfly. So basically, yeah, without this knot, it'd be confusion, right?
yeah.
So I say that because of our discriminative thought, that we create our karma, right? Um, so similarity of karma uh, create the birth of curse affinity. That's mean the birth of worms and egg. And this similarity led to either union for embodiment of beings in the that birth from humility, and a parting for transformation for like the butterfly. Is that understandable? What do you think? Because of a karma,
Yeah.
so affinity. That's why we were born in the wombs of the mothers. That's why we're here. And either union for embodiment union is born from humidity. Um, hmm. And a protein for transformation, that's understandable, right? From the worm is transformed to the butterfly, right? I understand it. It's understandable.
I so the dissimilarity, so the similarity causing similar karma, causing affinity, like a child with its mother, or an animal with its mother that is born by egg or in the womb. That makes sense. There's like a sense of affinity with each other.
Right?
But like the animals born by humidity, like worms, I think maybe mosquitoes count there too. Maybe frogs do as well, because they're like, frogs are maybe eggs, yeah. But
Worms, right? You talk about the worm
just worms, yeah,
from.
those don't have any like they don't have any relationship with each other. So that makes sense that they have karmic, they don't have affinity in that sense.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's what I was thinking. But I thought transformation, birth by transformation, I thought that was like when someone was born in, say, a heaven, when they like were just born from a lotus, or if they were like born in the deepest hells,
But
like they were just born by transformation.
in our eyes, I mean that in reality we can see this kind of beings, right? The butterfly for celestial beings, yeah, it's beyond our seeing, right? Our human seeing, unless we have second power, second eyes to see. But for the butterfly, we can see them clearly.
Okay.
Yeah. But of course, when we have when open our second eyes, we see all kind of transformation words, right? But not now. And you know what you call the is that the firebug? Is that right? At night, the
Oh
fire.
yeah, fireflies.
Oh, fire. What do you call?
Yeah, fireflies. In
Oh,
in
firefly. Okay,
in Jamaica, they call them peeniwallies.
okay. So in the Buddhist Sutra, it say there's some beings, some heaven beings, their body emit their own light. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's beyond our human thinking or seeing. But see, by seeing that firefly, we can imagine there's some beings that emit their own light to light them up. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So uh, yeah, so that's why sometimes it's just, unless we have a second eye, we could see them. Otherwise, we just see things that in the mundane and win our ability to see. And so, yeah, without this, not confusion. I don't know what they talk about,
We
right? Yeah.
we also, yeah, that is. Humans also emit small amounts of light
Yes.
too,
Mm.
because our DNA is crystalline along with the fascia, so it resonates at certain frequencies of light and can absorb energies and then re-emit them.
But for our flesh eye, we cannot see, right? We have to use X-ray to see them, right?
Some, yeah, special device, yeah, to pick it up, yeah.
What kind of device is that? I read many years ago some Japanese scientists they use some kind of special device to recognize that type of light that emit from the human body. Is that right?
Yeah, it's there's I think there's because it's photons.
Oh,
It's
okay.
you have to be able to pick up photons. I think there's certain, I don't know. It's used, there's different things used in experiments that can pick up like very small amounts of photons and record it.
Mm,
I don't know what it's called. I'm not sure.
yeah. Well, yeah. Without the note, I would not understand too.
Yeah, I
Okay, well, that's nice. Now, is it logical now, right? Hmm.
yeah, it's still a little like some questions like, well, if they don't have karmic affinity, that's like if they don't have similar karma, then why would they be the same sort of creature? Like, why would they all be worms if they don't have similar karma?
But the worms born from, is that from the birth? Is that right? Or from the eggs?
I I don't know. I don't know how worms are born. I I mean, it's from another worm for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but I think they're drawing a distinction back in the day. I can find out real quick.
Mm.
How are worms born? They mate and fertilized eggs are held in a protective cocoon.
Mm.
So maybe that's the difference is because there's like a it's not like a normal egg, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like an egg that's held within a cocoon
Mm.
outside of the worm's body. And it depends upon moisture to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
So that may be why they say they're born from moisture.
I think you heard about the global warming, right? In the North artists and the South artists somehow when uh, when the ice was melting, so all, some kind of strain virus bacteria will disappear. They will appear, right, and may cause a problem for human beings later on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they live in or they were frozen within the ice birds, right? But now when the ice was melted down, they appear again. You heard about that, right?
Yes.
So probably this is may endanger human life later on with those type of strain viruses, right?
Hopefully not. But yeah, it's possible. It absolutely is possible.
So go back to the same problem here. So how could they? Uh, how was they born? How could they be born there? When at the beginning, when that type of iceberg.
Yeah, how did the ice or like did viruses come to be in the first place?
Hmm.
Yeah, viruses are interesting because they're almost like they're on the edge of life and death
Mm-hmm.
because they don't really carry on any functions of their own. They
Mm.
don't have all they have is like a little casing and ways to insert their genetic material into their host. And then their host is actually what makes more virus. And then all the virus does is it goes and it affects other hosts. So it's like it's not it's not like doing anything on its own. So it's like barely alive. It's like the most basic. And how do viruses come to be? I mean, they're probably one of the earliest forms of life
Mm.
because they're the simplest form of life that there is out there that I'm aware of.
So it belong to which category? Is transformation? Do you think so?
I guess, yeah, because they don't really have a mother or a father
Mm-hmm.
because yeah,
So when the temperature is warm, so they alive again. When it's so cold, right? The freezing temperature, they stand still there, right? Hmm.
yeah, they can't because they're so small. I think though if they're not stuck in ice, the wind can just blow
Mm.
or the water evaporates and they can like I think some of them can be airborne. Not all of them can be airborne though.
Hmm.
But I think if they're on something like a piece of dust and then the wind blows, well then they could be airborne.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think it's just because they're stuck. They can't go anywhere
Hmm.
when
So
they're
like
nice.
I get some questions even from my students. They say, "Well, in Buddhist view, we value life. How about bacteria and virus? We need to kill them in order to survive." What do you think? without
Well,
killing
our
them.
bodies are filled with, yeah, techniques of killing them.
Yeah. So what do you think then?
It seems like a sort of defense. Maybe we can think of it kind of like the defending, like the Dharma protectors,
Mm.
who some of them are like demons and dragons, like vicious creatures, but they're protecting the Dharma. And if we didn't have these immune cells that were protecting us from these other like entities, well, there'd be no opportunity to practice the Dharma. So it seems like, I mean, it seems essential.
Mhm. So go back to the basic of the life, right? We have some immune system that try to protect our body from external bacteria and virus, right? So without them, of course, we will not survive. And uh, and that's why some people they got HIV, some people they got the COVID-19 and so forth. That they invade and kill the immune system, and that's why they could not survive. So um, within our body, all kind of sentient beings, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so mm, mm, this is it's pure top when we go back to the question that who are we then? We have all kinds of sentient beings within our body, and here the Buddha talk about the pure nature, Buddha nature. So how to relate to even our sentient beings within our body, and that's why somehow many years ago when it was a lay person, I read the Dhamma Sutra. The Buddha, in that particular sutra, the Buddha said that I have crossed over all sentient beings. That's why I become Buddha. So at that time, I'm so surprised. The Buddha said that because I'm one of the sentient beings, but I'm still human. I'm still an enlightened person. How could the Buddha say that he has crossed over all of them already, including me? But of course, eventually we know that he had crossed over his own sentient beings within his body and mind. That's just more reasonable, right? Not the external beings like we think about.
The only other explanation I could think of, because I've thought about this too, because it says it in the Lotus Sutra,
Mm-hmm.
is like, um, what's a good analogy? Once you have like if I've okay, so if I have, this is not a perfect analogy, but I don't want to spend a long time thinking about one. If I've say if I prepared my soil really well and I knew what the weather was going to be like, I chose my location really well, and I planted all of my seeds. I know that the seeds grow well in this soil, in this location. They're going to get enough rain. They're going to get enough sunlight. If I had the ability to know all of those things, I could say, all right, I've grown all of these crops. Like everything is done. These crops, if left alone, I've done everything I need to do, they're going to grow. Like that sort of thing where like that the Buddha, because the Buddha's mind is beyond the past and the future.
Mm.
And maybe the Buddha has seen in the Buddha's realization, the Buddha has seen the crossing over of all living beings, even external living beings, and that it's been resolved. It's just a matter of time for the living beings who haven't yet become timeless. That was the other way I thought about that. But in the Jewel Platform Sutra, Huineng talks about, crossing over the living beings of your own mind. And so I would I don't I would tend to go with your explanation, but just wanted to share my other that other thinking that I'd had and hear your opinion on it. Or like, oh, here's a good analogy. Like, say there's a bathtub. If I pull the plug on the bathtub, eventually all of the water is going to run out, but
Okay.
it's going to take a little while for it to run out. Like that is the same idea of all living beings eventually will cross over because the bathtub was uncorked.
But since beings are limitless, right? We don't know how when we can cross over all of them, right? So that's why I like the explanation that we need to cross over our own sentient beings with our own mind, right? Our anxiety, our depression, our mental fluctuation. So when we cross over them, oh yeah, we will be enlightened person. It's more logical, right? But I go back to this point that I want to mention about the virus. We cannot see them, but they're there. So how long will they take to be a human to have a chance to cultivate them? Right? If they have the or some kinds of virus that are beneficial for human beings, right?
Mhm.
Hmm. Or even
Yes.
in our immune system, we have some kind of uh, helpful bacteria, right? To help for digestion, right?
Oh, we have about 800 to 1,000.
The only helpful bacteria.
Yeah, that live in our digestive tract.
Wow.
Different species. I mean, there's of each of those species, there's tons, but like about 1,000 different species.
Mhm. Wow. So we live because of their work, right?
Uh,
And even the immune system is combination of those virus. Is that right?
Well, I think the bacteria, they do play some role in protecting us. It's kind of like if you have a good person living in a house, then
Mm,
it's not going to be an abandoned house where maybe criminals will move into. So if you have all of these good bacteria, they're going to fill up the space so that bad bacteria don't come in. So in that way, they're part of the immune system, but they're not considered like immune cells because
mm.
our immune cells, they all contain our DNA,
Right.
whereas bacteria have their own DNA.
Oh, okay, I see. Wow, they really good karma then, and we don't know each of them when will they be human then, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting, right? It's been interesting. For I think probably no one talked about this before, right?
I
Yeah,
don't know, maybe not.
in the micro in the micro ways, right? Micro aspect, right?
It, but it's kind of similar to the idea of evolution,
Mm,
where the idea of evolution is that life started on Earth as a very simple, like single-celled organism, and
mm,
then gradually developed over time until eventually we reach the complexity of humans.
mm-hmm.
So, in one way, we could say that the bacteria way back then, they did eventually reincarnate as humans because of every generation something changes and grows and is different.
But about how about harmful bacteria? They go down.
Probably they probably got about, let's see, the Earth's, I think life has been on Earth, maybe bacterial life, I
Three
think 13 billion years.
years. Mm-hmm.
So a bacteria nowadays has like 13 billion years until it'll, but Maitreya is not coming for 16 billion, right? So they got time.
No, actually, according to the lifespan in the Tushita heaven is about more than 500 million years.
Oh, only 500 million. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not bad. They don't have time then. They're not gonna.
That's why in some particular sutra the Buddha say that actually one story say that when the Buddha walk around with Ananda, So both of them came to a big trees, and a what do you call a community, sorry, a community of ants that walk around or grow around that trees, that big trees. And so the Buddha point out to them that you see this type of what do you call is that community of ants, is that right?
A colony would
Of
probably
yeah,
colony means
colony of ants. And Buddha say, well, they here so many lifetimes. They were born, die here, they were born, die here, and they were born, die here, and so many lifetimes. Only one that's this particular era. And the Buddha point out, you see, our human life is so precious. Otherwise, when we born in that type of animal, we do habitual pattern to stay around that area, to stay around that places is so many lifetime. And I don't know about the bacteria. Right, it's interesting. If we have
yeah,
a second eye, we can see them clearly, right? Mm,
yeah.
mm. Anyway, so that's wow, that's interesting. Yeah, without this type of not we could not understand what I talk about.
Mhm.
Yeah, please can do it, please.
When perception of an attractive light reveals an illusory form, the clearness of the latter stimulates a keen desire for it. Opposing views cause hatred, whereas concordant ones lead to love, the flow of which becomes the seed germ, which, by uniting with craving, forms a fetus. Thus, sexual intercourse attracts those who share the same karma and causes the 5 states of a fetus. Therefore, the 4 forms of birth derive from particular causes. Birth from egg is due to predominance of thoughts, that from a womb to passions, that from humidity to responsive union, and that by transformation to parting and metamorphosis. The union and parting of thoughts and passions cause further changes and transformations, which rise and fall, closely followed by living beings, who are thus subject to the retributive effects of their karma, hence the continuity of the realm of living beings.
Hmm. Oh, you're a doctor, and it's your expertise here.
So the first part makes sense. We're talking about seeing in this sense, if it's a light that reveals a form. And then the clearness of the form, that like kind of that sense of its realness, of its existence, uh, stimulates a desire for it. Like that makes sense.
Mm,
And opposing views lead to hatred. Yeah, because things don't match up, they're not harmonious if they oppose. It's uncomfortable to be around someone who strongly opposes our views. Whereas if they're in agreement, it's much easier to be around them. But in this case, they're talking about the sort of, I mean, love that leads to craving, which leads to a baby. Well, that's like romantic love.
mm,
So, but in different levels of living beings,
mm,
like that sort of attractive love, not just humans, because they're talking about eggs and other ways of birth. So yeah, so the perception of the form leading to the craving, and when there's the views are in concordance, then that kind of craving and that the flow of love that comes from the concordance of the views leads to the creation of a fetus, um, and through sexual intercourse. um, so this is interesting. An egg birth is due to a predominance of thoughts.
mm,
That's really interesting because like humans seem to be the most thinking, like, living things that we know of. And like birds, I mean, they probably have more thought than like I don't know. They seem more intelligent than say like a mouse,
Mm.
but they're not more intelligent than a human.
Like eagle, like chicken. What do you think?
Yeah, chicken's not very smart. An eagle has a lot of like decisive awareness, but I don't like the way I think about thoughts. I don't, I feel like I don't expect birds to really be thinking a lot.
Mm. Ah, mm. Later on, I think the Buddha will explain 12 types or 12 kinds of beings instead of 6 types. And the Buddha mentioned that uh, the one has more thought will be born in heaven. Of course, we have both the passion and the thoughts. And if we have more passion, if we have more passion than the thoughts, we may go down to animal realms. And and for the beings that were born in the hungry ghost realm or even hell realm, they have heavy, probably craving, not a passion. Yeah, craving. I think let's see in the last part, later part, they can explain whether we can use passion or craving. Yeah, but I don't know again. Uh, yeah. So here the Buddha say that the eggs born is due to the dominance of thought. Then let's see how. The one to the passion is understandable, right?
Yeah, that's understandable.
Immune to responsive union of what?
Um, I don't know. Humidity
Union of
is due to, so yeah, egg birth is due to thoughts, womb birth is due to passion, humidity birth is due to responsive union.
is that between beings and temperature? Is that right?
I don't know what responsive union is.
Yeah.
Because responsive would be like, if you're there and I say, "Hey, Tay," then you respond. You say, "Yeah."
Mhm.
So, but if it's in the setting of like like worms and intercourse with responsive union, it's like one worm goes up to another worm,
Mhm.
and the other worm, instead of like not responding, responds, and so union then being the intercourse.
Mm. Okay, probably it just has the proper context according to this passage. Uh, and by transmission to Partin, that's understandable, right? The worm transform itself into the butterfly, right?
It's due to parting and metamorphosis. So if someone is used to like parting, like separating, a being is used to separating from other beings
Mhm.
and changing, undergoing dramatic change, and they could be born by transformation. I mean, I think that makes sense because, like, not just using the butterfly analogy, but also using the deepest hell, the highest heaven. Well, probably to get to the highest heaven, we have to be pretty unattached, and we have to go through some tremendous transformation if like our life preceding becoming that heavenly being's a human, or
Mhm.
to go to the deepest hell, we probably also have to separate ourselves from others in a way, in a negative way, and also undergo tremendous transformation in order to get that sort of karmic retribution. So yeah, I think that makes sense.
Mm. But like the firefly, right? We can see with our own eyes. The butterfly we can recognize, right? The one that beings from born from the transformation.
Due to parting, I don't know how the parting. because the metamorphosis would be the reason that we're saying they're born by transformation, because they metamorph into the butterfly. But I don't know how we'd see butterflies parting. They part from, I guess they part from their state as a caterpillar.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know whether I told you at least two incidents that uh, okay, let me tell you the story first and come back make the conclusion. So I went to Atlanta to do the funeral service for an old man who passed away, I think, in his early or mid 80s. After 400 days of praying, so the children they drove the car up here up to Corden. And guess what? When they got to the old gate, the big butterfly uh, flew around them, flew around their car, and somehow somehow it stood on the roof of the car, and it flew up to the driveway to the temple. That's one incident. This is so obvious. I could remember since that day. Another similar event happened again too. So at least twice. That's one is the thing that I remember so many years. So how could we explain that someone passed away, and somehow now after the prayer for 4 days, and when the children came to the monastery, and I mean that the soul or the consciousness of that old man transform himself into the butterfly to show them that he's here with them. Did I tell you this story before?
Yeah, yeah, I remember this one. Yeah, it's wild because the fact that it if it fall that's a pretty long road.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that maybe a butterfly flies by, but the fact that it follows them all the way up to the top, and it's
So
a particularly large one.
how
Uh,
could you explain this phenomenon then?
I mean, I think people who didn't believe in that sort of uh, phenomena, they would say, "Oh, it's just coincidence. It's just the butterfly happened to do that." But you could explain it through this idea of the old man's consciousness coming back to comfort his family through some sort of symbol.
Mm-hmm. Actually, at least like I told you, that story is so obvious that I could remember all in detail. But the other one, this is similar. The way I explained to them like this, okay, so because he missed them so much, or they missed they miss him so much, so somehow he could not let go of this type of attachment. That's why somehow he entered this type of form of lives for a certain period of time to show them that he followed them, and eventually, definitely after that, he would take future rebirth in different form of life. We don't know, but let's say this is. I think it's logical because sometimes because of some type of attachment, we go into different direction that we may not know of until we have the maturity, until we have some type of some type of awareness. We would go back to the path that we used to go, or that's belong to us. It makes sense now? It makes sense to you? Or in the course of
Yes.
sometimes we go astray from our path, but as much they not our path, we would find ways to get back our own path. So the soul or the consciousness, probably because of his attachment to his children, that's why somehow he finds some way to transform himself or to live in that kind of animal body to show them his love. and after that he would go back to his own path. That makes sense.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, only we understand the concept of karma and attachment deeply would recognize us. Otherwise, yeah, people can say it's just coincidence, but uh, sometimes we need to recognize us based on the Buddha teaching. Otherwise, it's unexplainable. We cannot explain those kind of phenomena. Yeah. Okay. All right. So here this part is easy to understand, right? Last part, right?
Oh, yeah. The union and parting of thoughts and passions cause further changes and transformations to rise and fall. Yeah. So just that this, what's kind of described above, continues to play out over time, where there's, this interaction between thoughts and passions continually causing more living beings to turn in the cycle.
Hmm. So what do you think about our own situation? Let's say if we don't, or even if we would know there's six part with the bird, so how could we have the wisdom to get back to our human realm or to go to heaven?
Yeah, in that state, I mean, supposedly the Bardo state is much different than our consciousness right now.
Yeah, quite
And
different.
we're driven by our karma and also by whatever state of consciousness we achieved. So if we achieve like a high state of awareness and we live in that regularly, then maybe it could be a lot easier to exercise some sort of influence over the direction. But otherwise, if we don't, I think we're just sort of like a leaf in the wind almost.
That's why I used to encourage the Buddhist people to make the vows in Mahayana Sutra, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
Brahmana Sutra, right? It say that as soon as we make the vows, the Buddhist vows, and with that type of strong vows, they will lead us to the destination that we want to go. Like I just mentioned recently, sometimes we get lost because we're not aware of things we're doing. But until we gain our awareness, we will try our best to get back to our path. Now, that is for ourselves. If we believe in Buddha and Bodhisattva power, the blessing power, according to the Brahmana Sutra, as long as we make the lofty vows to practice Bodhisattva path, Bodhisattva conduct, Buddha and Bodhisattva, soon later, they will help us and lead us to that path instead of ourselves. It makes sense now?
Yes.
What do you think? In is it applicable even now, up to now in our life? What do you think? Our personal life, what do you think?
I think so. I mean, because if a vow is something that we take all the way like deep, we take it into like the deepest part of our being, and we protect it um, with our full effort. And that makes sense that would create a set up a sort of a pattern or
Mm.
set up like an energy that could carry forward and protect us in the future, especially vows like born out of deep compassion and in association with the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as support. Um, that I mean, for normal human thinking, yeah, it's all of this is beyond normal human thinking, of course, but through understanding the Buddhist teachings and the role of how the Bodhisattvas and Buddhas work for the benefit of living beings and the power of karma. I think the vows are like an expression. It's a way of using the law of karma um, to help protect ourselves and other beings.
Yeah, I used to tell people, whether they're Buddhist, non-Buddhist, the reason why I become a monk somehow. Yeah, I told them that yeah, without having experience on the ocean for 6 days and night, and encounter difficulties in the refugee camp and so forth. Plus, on the top of that, some kind of spiritual awakening. I would not have a strong vows to become Buddhist monk right after graduation from college. And most of my friends, they say I'm so dumb. I spent 4 years of studying, now I gave up everything to become Buddhist monk. And of course, looking back, I recognize without a vows, there's no way for me to do that, because at that time, the urge to become a Buddhist monk is so strong that no matter what happened, whether the earth was crumbling or even I die, I would still keep up with that vows, that determination. That's so strong. Yeah, I think yeah, that's why I make the conclusion. Without the past vow, I would not have that kind of inclination and determination.
Mhm.
Let's say if I just flew from Vietnam to United States by airplane, if I have easy life when I was young, I guess I would not make that kind of vows to become Buddhist monk. But because somehow when I was young, I encountered all kind of problems, difficulties, challenges in the communist country, as well as I'm witness all kind of suffering from my own people. Plus, on the top that, the more important is my spiritual awakening. So somehow the urge and the wish to become Buddhist monk is so strong. Nothing can stop me. So I make always think that without past vows and practice, I could not do that. If I just mm, went through the normal lifestyle of a man, right? And you too, right, William, right? Yeah, without some type of challenging, you will not make the vows to memorize the Lotus Sutra and so forth, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I wouldn't have started meditating in the first place. I got suspended from school for the last 8 weeks and had all sorts of was just kind of everything I was doing was just leading to I was kind of headed down
Mm-hmm.
and yeah it's generally yeah I've noticed for other people but for myself yeah I was born out of suffering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, again, without experience those type of suffering, or witness those type of turbulence in life, we could not value the spiritual life much, right? Mm.
Hmm.
More material. Like we focus on material life like other people. They just uh, focus on how much money they make, how much wealth they have, and what status, position in society they may have, and so forth. Mm, yeah. Anyway, so again, go back to our own taste. I think as much as we make strong vows to practice here on this earth now in this lifetime, and when we're done with this life, this type of vows or those type of Bodhisattva vows will lead us to the same path that we wish, that we build up already in our life, in this present life, as well as the blessing of Buddha and Bodhisattva that may lead us to that path again. So it's nothing for us to be concerned of, right? But for many people, like you say, um, they come just actually they just go with the flow of their karma wherever it takes. But for Mahai Buddhist people, especially when we make the Buddhist vow or Bodhisattva vow, we know not exactly, but we know our path. when we know when we working on our part, or we know about our part that we're going to work on. It makes sense now, right?
Yes, Tay.
So that's why making a vow is so important. We can transform, right? We can lead our karma. Even as a an enlightened person, sometimes we create all kind of bad karma or good karma, but the vows that could uh, guide those karma into the path that we set up already. Uh, of course, personally, but we also be blessed. We'll be blessed by Buddha and Bodhisattva to help us on the way too. Okay, so thank you then. So I will